We're right back at it on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Frank the Tank, Baraska, Derek Brandeo with you for the next 2 hours. For the first hour, it is our Leaf edition. Toronto Maple Leafs will face the St. Louis Blues as they make their only visit to Toronto. Leafs looking to get back on track as we await D-Day for Morgan Rielly. Decision day. We know that the hearing went on early this afternoon, lasted about 30 minutes.
Okay. Snowstorm made it Zoom.
Snowstorm made it Zoom. So the Leafs wanted to go down there and have a little face-to-face because there is the thought that they were very animated in terms of feeling very strong that this should not be a lengthy suspension, and the best way to do that is eye to eye.
Yeah. I bet you Brendan Shanahan, having been there, encouraged Rielly to say, I think it's worth it. Remember David Perron didn't go? And I remember thinking at the time, like, boy, you should go be there for that and stand up for yourself. But Rielly was going to go by all accounts.
Yeah, and the weather stopped him.
Yeah.
So
the weather that we're supposed to get on Thursday is supposed to be snowy here.
I'm just trying to share my screen. Yeah. Can you see? This is the hearing. Can you see what I'm seeing? You can't? Oh.
Yeah. He's just working from home today, boys.
Sounded like a very business-like Zoom call. I don't think there's a lot of yelling and screaming or furniture being broken in the background. So lasted probably about half an hour.
Who all would be involved in that meeting from the Leafs side?
Morgan, of course, would have to state his case. Brad Treliving, perhaps Brendan Shanahan. I have no confirmation on that, but I would think Brendan would want to be on it in some way, shape, or form, just in terms of giving Morgan support.
And you'd have George Peros, Stefan Quintel, Patrick Burke, I imagine.
Yeah. And members of the Players Association.
Yeah. Can I ask you why this is taking so long?
Because they have the time.
Because they have the time? Like
it's always about the schedule.
It feels like to me, is it always about the schedule?
Always about the schedule.
All right.
Right? Do you play the next night? Or in this case for the Toronto Maple Leafs, it goes from Saturday to Tuesday. They take the extra day.
I guess the idea that it was going to be less than one game was not an option on the scorecard.
I guess it just feels like they've really left a lot of time for us.
Yeah. For
people like I guess this is why maybe the Leafs lead the league in suspensions, because it's just the discourse on this.
And it's tiresome.
It's, there is, a lot of different opinions from a lot of different sides on this. And it just feels like if an Arizona Coyote did this, we wouldn't be talking about it very much.
Well, of course, there's nothing that can grasp the attention than a controversial play against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
But also, it has major ramifications for this Leafs team. He plays the whole game for them. He's their most important defenseman, maybe their most important player. And they're on the cusp of playoffs. This is a massive...
No. You're exaggerating. You're exaggerating.
You keep saying this because you want it to be more dramatic when they are on the cusp.
You're couching it big time.
And this is the same with the Tavares going to be point per game thing. It's not a lock, my friend.
Like when he said the Leafs should sweep the Panthers. Like
32 games. They're not on the cusp. They've got 32 games.
Yeah, to go in either direction. That's how it works. You're not assured an upward ascent over 32. Buddy, they got the Ducks, the Blues, the Coyotes, teams they should beat the next 5 games, and Timothy Liljegren's on the top pair.
Can we have this conversation after 5 games?
No. Jake McCabe's on the first power play unit tonight, Nick. This matters.
Okay, so let's
how many games, by the way?
Speak hypothetically.
Give me your prediction.
I think they go one less than Perron at 5. But here's the but.
Too much.
I didn't like Perron's at 6.
It's too much.
Did they box themselves into a corner here with needing to match Perron? He could get 6. Morgan Rielly could get 6 just to say that it ticked all the same boxes as Perron. Therefore, we're going to stay consistent. or do they go a little less because it's Morgan Rielly? The guy had 2 penalty minutes, for God's sakes.
Well, that's a big part to me. Like, Perron didn't have a suspension history, but he had a history of being a...
No, I think there was a retaliatory...
there was one thing?
Something.
But he also had a history of being greasy.
He's greasy.
You know, Rielly took his first penalty in game 41 this season.
Can I just address something that I've seen a lot amongst Leafs Nation?
Of course.
Is the chase on play where there's, did you see that clip, Kyper, of the chase on cross check? And I don't know who was in the Leafs that he got. He cross checked somebody and it was 1 game suspension. It was Jimmy Vesey, thank you, Derek Brandale, that he cross checked.
Okay.
That cross checked him.
That cross check. They might as well show it in black and white.
Well,
it's like a million years ago. It's like it's not even counting.
My point is,
Who do you
Leafs Nation are lying to themselves if they think that's even close to as bad as Morgan Rielly's.
But
Morgan Rielly's is much worse than what Jason did. Like, sure, it's a cross check to the head, kind of. It's a similar thing, but it's not even
the
close.
clip of Wayne Simmons getting cross-checked that's out there is pretty egregious.
That one's
for
worse,
a 0 suspension
for sure.
hit.
But I just
that one, but
just seems like we only can compare it to maybe the latest suspension or the one behind it. But when you start going back a year, 2, 3 years, it's almost as if it's dated.
Well, we'll have Elliotte on today. Elliotte Friedman's going to join us in the second hour. But one of the things that he talked about is how, you know, people are appealing suspensions more now. They just never did that. And 3 of the last 4, maybe, or 3 of the last 3 have all been appealed. And so now there's this like desire to have precedent, to have, you know, something to compare it to previously.
Yeah,
so
just, listen, make them work.
Yeah,
Make everybody work.
Yeah, and that's fine. But
and get it down on paper.
But things are changing, right? Like I agree that super old ones are not super helpful.
And it's not to save a game or two, the appeal, and it's not to necessarily even try to save a few bucks, although that's a nice bonus. It's just to get them to write it down on paper.
So I don't even know if I asked you, what do you think it should be? If you were George Peros, what would you give him, Kyper?
Yeah, I'd be in the 2 to 3 range.
Exact same pocket for me.
I'd say 3.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, I'd hear both arguments for sure, but no injury. Rielly's history, I think it's more one hand than 2 on the cross check that gets ridden up.
Just please just acknowledge that Ridley, Greg,
touches his stick first.
Made a dick move. How's that? Just acknowledge it. Say, you know, you kind of had...
the video shows.
You kind of had something coming.
Yeah.
You know, just acknowledge that. We don't condone cross-checks to the head.
But
the video clearly shows we have a bit of a dick move.
Come here. Play your teammates' comments here, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody believes it was a dick move.
I heard Braden Shen today. His comments on it were basically like that. It was embarrassing what Greg did. Like he was really opposed to the idea.
As the video shows, he was a total hotshot.
But we're okay with what you did. We're okay with what you did. But just know that something's coming, and if you want to turn around and fight them, we welcome that because we love the Battle of Ontario, and
even
it's back,
Bettman
baby.
did say, like, even if you wanted to fight him. You know, I talked to my dad today, who, you know, played for a lot of years, and his comment was very similar to yours yesterday, which was like, the art of goading someone into a fight is kind of lost, and my dad said the best play is just a glove-on punch. You know, you start with a good punch to the face with a glove on. You're not getting suspended for that. And
just
then you're
go from
saying,
there.
And if you're willing to get the gloves off at that point, now we're in one.
Tell you what,
know?
I'd rather get punched bare knuckles than a glove.
Yeah, the insult?
What's that?
Having the glove on is more insulting, or feels worse?
No. You could do a lot of damage with a glove.
Yeah.
Like if I point my thumb in the right direction, I
like a
you
blocker.
can't see for weeks out of one eye.
Kyper,
I just poked that thing right into your skull.
Mr. Kypreos, are you speaking from experience by any chance?
Yeah, it's dangerous. Gloves are dangerous. A knuckle sandwich I can deal with.
It's not viewed the same, is it? Like a glove-on punch is viewed as much more acceptable.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that too.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm 2-3 range.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but
I think it'll end up being 5.
The Perron thing at 6 has really put Morgan Rielly in a tough situation where I don't anything lower than Perron. The perception's going to be that they caved to the Leaf
The guy Perron hits
nation.
isn't looking. He doesn't even know what's coming.
And it's also the wrong
And he's
individual.
hurt.
It's the wrong individual.
Yeah.
That he
God, that's a
buries.
lot that makes it worse.
So the feeling is that we will hear something tonight.
We want it during the show.
I don't
Let's
know
go.
if we're going to get it before the show.
Let's send some texts here soon and see.
It
what we can find out.
would it surprise you if it came down like 10 minutes into the first period?
No. No is the answer. It would not surprise me at all.
If it's not before puck drop at 7 p.m. for St. Louis,
Cowards.
it has to be after the game.
No. They'll do whatever the hell they want.
You think?
They don't
Yeah,
Just-
you're right.
Just they know what they're going to give him. Put it out there now. The meeting's over. They know what they're going to give him.
Oh, no. They're going to take the time because they're going to want to put a video together to explain it.
Oh, they're just.
They got to make content. Get the content ready.
Oh, God. I'm really dreading this.
As
one.
the video
Okay.
shows.
Have
They already
you-
know the clips.
As the
are
video
coming.
shows,
Have you
Sam McKee is
actually?
pissed off.
When was the last time you actually
We do
listened
not agree.
to that?
To those
Yeah,
videos?
that you do. Are you a listener
No,
of the
it's
explanation?
it's a great question because I don't anymore.
Think anybody would be interested in it?
I did for a long time when they were new and whatever, and now I don't know.
Because I remember Shanny doing it. I
it.
remember being Shanny's voice. Remember he used to narrate them when he was the guy. I remember when it first came out, he started it.
I don't watch them because I know what
Patrick Burke that does
cause
all
and
of them now,
I think
right?
I can tell, isn't it? Oh, is it Burke?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
We do not agree. Whose voice is that?
that's whoever it is that's still doing
Yeah.
it.
So
So-
there you go.
All right, let's go to Sheldon Keefe for our first Kippers Clipper of our show on Playing Without Morgan.
It gets the team's attention, I guess is what I'm saying. And you know, you can galvanize or rally around that. In my time here, the team has done that quite well. You know, I referenced it yesterday, right? Last season, we had a number of injuries on defense. And guys came in, did a good job. Everybody around them played better. Ended up being one of our best stretches of the season at a time when, you know, it could have gone real bad. You know, the team was trying to find its way. You know, and then even this season, we had injuries on defense as well this season. And you know, we're unsure about our depth on defense. And then guys come in and do a really good job for us. And in fact, you know, you look at the case like Benoit, he sort of hasn't looked back from that. So, you know, in some of these cases, some great things can come up.
I can see this happening. I said to McKee before we came in to do the show here that one of two things is happening tonight. You're going to get an awesome Leafs game. Like, you know, one of those times when the Blues are red hot coming to town, the Leafs are without Rielly. It's the exact spot that you get like the best Leafs version of them. They surprise you.
Or
Dennis
door number 2.
Or Dennis Hildeby's in net before the second period.
Yeah.
Oh,
Blues
man.
Those are your two outcomes.
Blues have won 5 straight on the road, Kip. They're won 7 of their last 8. They are coming in really hot. They're playing well
Fuego.
for Drew Bannister. I don't know.
Remind people, for who?
Drew Bannister.
He is the coach
The
of
head
the St. Louis
coach.
Blues.
Yes.
He did not know that.
Yeah.
So it was last year they lost Morgan Rielly for what, 17 games?
Yeah, and they were awesome.
No, I think it was
Or was it-
14, 15. They went 12-2, I think.
Oh, I think they went
Yeah.
better than that.
Yeah, because
Did
it was
they?
there. It was that November where they were red hot.
And then they went into Arizona and lost the first game he came back.
Yeah.
I remember the conversations we had last year. Like, are we sure? I feel so dumb.
So I think they went something like 14-2-1 or something.
Yeah, they were really good.
Really
Exactly.
good.
So, yeah, it's possible, right? But
Well,
Liljegren hasn't been very good, and he's going to be asked to play top pair minutes.
that stretch too was like phenomenal defensive coverage
Mhm.
that we've seen in many, many years. And maybe it just speaks to the sense of urgency when you lose a Morgan Rielly.
And that's why I think tonight could be a surprisingly good game. When everyone's like, no passengers, we need everyone without Morgan, and all of a sudden you put together a great effort. One interesting note is that Jake McCabe is replacing Rielly on the top power play unit. Does it surprise you that Timothy Liljegren isn't the guy being given the look, given kind of what, you know, he seems like maybe they're more offensive guy. McCabe, you think of as a defensive type of guy.
Do you want a really exciting answer?
Yeah.
No.
Doesn't surprise you.
Doesn't surprise me.
Because?
Because I've watched Liljegren play for the last month.
Yeah, so this is more about Liljegren than McCabe to you?
For sure. Like, I just don't, I don't know what Kipper thinks, but if there's one guy on the D-core that's shown that he's like proved his way up to that top unit, it's him. Timmins is out for however long with mono, so he's not going to be able to
Connor
do it.
Timmins out for indefinitely again. Which,
so
feel for that guy.
Yeah.
God, he's had a tough run.
But I don't think there's anyone else you'd go to unless you're going to do 5 forwards, which we can talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Sammy that I do believe that Liljegren will get good looks on the power play tonight. I think it's wise to not announce it or tell anybody.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yes. I think because he's got enough on his plate right now between his ears and maybe his ankle.
Yeah.
He's not playing well. He's making some bad decisions. I don't know where he is on percentages of feeling great on the ankle, but the last thing you need to do is to tell the whole world. And Liljegren's going to come in
he's been
and
terrible,
save
but here's
the day
more
on the power play.
Okay, so this is totally random little bits. You can do useful or useless on this for me. In 124 minutes for Morgan Rielly, they've scored 26 goals, the Leafs, of power play time. That's a goal roughly every 4:45 of ice time. Liljegren, it's 11 minutes, a goal roughly every 11 minutes of power play ice time he gets, which is obviously twice as bad. Jake McCabe, 3 goals they've scored in his 7 minutes of power play ice time. 2 minutes and 20 seconds per is the actual exact number. Look at this guy here. Jake McCabe is Cale Makar. He has been waiting in the wings. I love, by the way, big McCabe guy.
He can shoot the puck.
He can shoot it.
Yeah.
He can shoot it.
I think he can shoot it in the net.
He's shot it over 92 miles per hour in game once this season. I like it. So give it a try. And as for 5 forwards, they've only been 5 forwards for less than a minute, I think 20-some seconds of ice time this year. But last year, they went 5 forwards fairly often with Michael Bunting.
Yeah.
And when they did that, not a ton of success. Lower success rate than the first unit and their second unit, and they gave up a couple shorties. So we can listen to Sheldon, who talked a little bit about that as well, on the idea, clip number 3, on potentially playing with 5 forwards on the power play.
Still an option for us. Quite honestly, it's something it's specific to how St. Louis penalty kills and how we feel we need to play against them. They create a lot of offense on their penalty kill, so that's one thing to be aware of. But just some of the nuances in the zone, we think it's better for us to have our forwards play in more natural positions, and McCabe as a left-hander with that group is more similar to Rielly. So it came down to the kind of a handedness thing for us with debated Liljegren or McCabe, but we like for today's game and for this opponent with going with more of a traditional look for us.
St. Louis, second in the league in shorthanded goals.
Yeah, they got 11 already. The Leafs only have 5, and they roll out Marner and sometimes Matthews and Nylander.
Yeah. St. Louis looked pretty good, and I know it was Montreal on the weekend, but they're coming in feeling pretty darn good here. I think as long as the power play doesn't look leaky, it's fine.
I think that's part of the McCabe thing, too. They're like, you just make sure no one's behind you and let the other guys do the thing they do.
They don't.
If you get to hit it, great.
It's not like
that's not really how he works.
McCabe?
Yeah. Like, you don't think they're going to put him out there and be like, I'll be a good boy. Like, he is going to be
jumping. He'll be jumping.
He'll be down below the goal line one time.
Oh, Edison,
he'd be so nervous to be out there for the first time. He won't do that.
Okay.
Not my Jake McCabe.
Okay.
I'm putting Carlton in the Bear if I see him gambling.
McCabe cannot take a risk. No one behind you.
Okay, we've been watching him for a year, boys. You're making it seem like that's a crazy thing that happened.
Well, but a
He's
5-on-5 is different.
He's a gambler.
Yeah, he'll roll the dice here
Anyways,
and there, but
I just think it's
hopefully
within the realm of
this ain't his spot to roll it.
You got to now look at the team collectively with the loss of Morgan Rielly, and it's okay to just look at the blue line, but this is going to be a night when all the forwards are going to have to come back and help, and they're going to have better back pressure. I get that Sheldon still wants maybe a stretch pass to break out, but you got to make sure that puck comes out before you start blowing zones tonight. Listen, try to win the game 2-1. It's okay. It's all right. Just tonight's about not giving them chances or not shooting yourselves in the foot. That's what tonight should be all about.
Well, and as you mentioned off the top of the show, this is where they did that their best. Without Morgan Rielly in the past, they said, we need to tighten up, and they have shown that they're able to do it. So, yeah, you'll see a full effort. You get David Kampf back tonight, which is big. It's crazy how different the lineup looks with and without him. So, at least you feel like you have someone else that's defensively responsible. Mark Giordano is going to be back as well. Whatever you think of him, he is defensively responsible as well. So you got enough guys to help contain the Blues.
All right. Have we played Sheldon on the elevated roles?
We have not.
All right. Let's hear what his thoughts are on the rest of the hockey club.
Well, I think it's a combination of things. First thing is to not try to do too much and not feel like the responsibility is bigger than anything that you're capable of. It's more so just getting out there and playing. And as I said yesterday, sometimes for some players, it actually works out better because you're just thinking less. You have to go. You got to keep going. You don't have time to get in your head. And if you make a mistake, you're likely going right back out. Like it's sometimes, when some of these things happen and you just have no choice but to count on others, it can benefit guys. And then in some cases too, guys just get really excited, about a chance to go out and show they can play. Everybody's looking for more opportunity always. Whether you're going well or not so well, you guys want to play. You guys want to play a lot, and that's where we're at here. And I'm excited for the team to go out and respond.
One of the guys that is playing a lot more in the last couple of games, Max Domi, and I'd like to see him up with Matthews and Marner.
Me too.
I'd drop Nyes.
Me too.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be married to with a Gregor Domi Robertson line. Like, ugh.
Yeah, it's not giving you a whole lot.
So you might as well, Domi, you said, been playing, 17 minutes a couple of games?
Yeah, 16, 17 against Ottawa.
Every time he's on the ice with Mitch Marner, whether it's them connecting directly or not, they seem to have good things happening. It's two really good passers, with the best shooter on earth. So I don't hate the idea. I'm not sure who goes to get the puck, but hopefully you just have it all the time. There could be some potential there to really unlock a guy like Domi who hasn't created as much offense as he's probably wanted to because he's been on the bench too much.
Yeah, I just think that it feels like there's a natural fit there with him passing to Austin Matthews, and it's not going to help Matthews' assist numbers, Kipper, but I think it'll be good for him to sauce a couple to Matthews. So
Matthew Nye has been better, though. I think worth
scored
noting
on
that.
Saturday.
Yeah, scored the other night, had an assist. Just looks a little bit more energized to me. You see in that, Kip, a little bit of second win from here, from him?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think, Nyes is still a bit of a project here, guys. Just in terms of now, you gotta back him off a little bit, too. I just don't think that... They made the decision to rest him during the All-Star break, and I get that. In terms of coming out of college, he made it abundantly clear my season would have been over this time last year at the halfway mark. He could have gone and played a few games for the Marlies, but they didn't want to put the extra weight on his shoulders of wear and tear or just the mental battle. So
Get up for games.
Just back him off a little bit and put a guy that's been in the league almost 10 years in Max Domi.
Last one, I know we're going to go because we got to get to Doug Armstrong on the other side, president of hockey ops and general manager for the St. Louis Blues. But what are your thoughts on Samsonov tonight? Is there a scenario where they just say, look, you're the guy, you're in there if you give up 8? Or do you think this is a scenario where he could get the hook if he's bad?
Yeah. Again, they got a rookie in Dennis Hildeby.
Hildeby, yep.
Hildeby.
The Hildebeest.
I think it's a last resort to want to put him in his first NHL game in a cold and down 4-0. So I think the roof's got to completely cave in.
One of those ones where they say,
Samsonov.
sorry, Samsonov. Sorry about your mental state. If 5's going in, it's 10.
But yeah, that to me is
it's not ideal.
It's the wrong line of thinking. It's because if you need, when's Woll back? I know he's practicing, but you need Samsonov.
Within a week.
I think you're still in protect Samsonov mode here versus Hildeby. No?
No, I think it's a good point. It depends if you've given up on him or not.
Listen, you you can do a lot of damage. If you think that you've made good strides in the last 3 weeks or a month with Samsonov, there is potential to do a lot of damage tonight.
Yes.
So I don't know what the answer is. I think you just gotta read the vibe tonight. And Sheldon needs to throw in the towel. That's his job. That he's paid to do that.
I think, if you're the Leafs, you got to give up under 25 shots to St. Louis tonight. The Blues are 22nd in the NHL in goals for per game. Like, it needs to be, you need to protect Samsonov tonight.
We think Joseph Wall is close.
Yeah.
So.
Like, next week, he could be.
What's the weekend like?
Ducks Saturday.
Ducks Saturday and then Tuesday?
He is in practice.
Yes. So St. Louis tonight, in Philly Thursday, and then Saturday at home at the Ducks.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think you can look past the next 2 games and then reassess. And if it's not pretty in net for you, you may have to go to Joseph Wall as early as Saturday night.
The Wall and the Beast as a playoff tandem. Here it comes.
All right, let's go.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. And as my good buddy JB mentioned, Doug Armstrong, president of hockey operations, St. Louis Blues, and they are hot after the break. You're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Bourne. The Toronto Maple Leafs are set to do battle against the St. Louis Blues, who make their only visit to Toronto as the Leafs look to get back on track. Now joining us, let's welcome in the president of hockey operations, general manager of the St. Louis Blues, Doug Armstrong. So, Army, you beat Buffalo on Saturday. You crushed the Canadiens 7-2 on Sunday. You've won 7 of the last 8. How's the rebuild going?
Well, the last couple of weeks it's been going well. No, the guys have really played well recently. We had a good road trip prior to our All-Star break. We laid an egg against Columbus just the night before we took off, but responded with 2 good games after, and it'll be a great test tonight. Actually, we have our next 4 games, Kyper, are going to be real good tests. We have Toronto twice, Edmonton, and then a Nashville team that we're competing against for a playoff spot. So I guess every game's important, but these next 4 should give us a good test.
Yeah, Doug, you guys are in the second wild card spot right now. Where are you compared to where you expected to be this season? Is this about par for the course, or are you guys happily, or pleasantly surprised with how well you're doing?
No, we thought that we would be competing for that one of the wild card spots. Going into the year, I thought that Colorado and Dallas were going to be the premier teams in our division. When I did say that in September, I also thought that Winnipeg might be trading Scheifele and Hellebuck, and they doubled down there. So I got to give them a ton of credit. They've had a great year too, and then you see a team like Vancouver that's playing great and maybe unexpectedly at the top of where they are. We thought we'd be competing with them, but they've taken a different step. So all in all, I think we're in a good spot. I think a place that we thought we'd be. We traded away a lot of good players last year at the deadline, and have created growth opportunities for some of our younger players, and we're living and dying with some of those decisions. And but I like our veteran group, and I think we can stay competitive for a playoff spot from here to the rest of the year.
No. Is a guy like Robert Thomas still a youngster, or is just a guy that's coming on, or is he just ready for prime time right now? Because every time I watch you guys, I can't stop watching him.
Yeah, I would say he's been in the league a long time because he came as a 19-year-old in 2019 when we won, and so he's got a lot of experience, but he's still at a tender age. So I just think probably this year might be the first year, or next year is where he's going to feel the most comfortable for the better part of 6 or 7 years. So he's entering the spot right now. I think getting into the All-Star game was a great accomplishment, and doing it in Toronto, in his hometown, and the level of competition I thought in this year's All-Star game was the highest it's been, and just being able to rub shoulders with those guys, I think, is great for him. And you're right, he's a player that I enjoy watching every night. you would have competed against Adam Oates, but there's a little bit of Adam Oates in him, Kyper. Just his ability to find plays and to find scenes and to find people is at the top of the NHL. And I think he's one of those younger players now that with the NHL saying that they're going to go to the Olympics, he's a player that I hope sees himself as someone that can continue to push and strive to be on teams like that, whether it's the Four Nations tournament, the Olympics, or any international events. He's represented Canada in the past very well, and him and Kyper, and there's a host of people that are looking forward to doing that, and we're happy we got a couple of them.
Well, that's interesting. I actually I wanted to ask you about Jordan Binnington because, when everyone makes Team Canada's right now, they go, but who's going to play goal? And Binnington, not that far removed from a Stanley Cup and having a very good season. Tell us about his year. I should say statistically having a good season. Tell us about what you've seen out of him this season.
Yeah, he's been very good for us. I think, quite honestly, last year he probably accepted the most of the brunt of our poor play in front of him. We gave up way too many grade A chances. I think we were at the bottom part analytically in slot chances against and high scoring danger chances. And we cleaned up our game, and he's responded by playing very well. I think him and Joel will forgive us a really good 1-2 punch there. They push each other, and I think Binnington, is going to be in that conversation. With other players, obviously Hill had a great year, and Kemper's won a Stanley Cup. And you go back, they talk about not a shortage of goaltenders, but I think besides Vasilevsky, there hasn't been many other countries that have had a Stanley Cup winning goalies lately either. So I think we're in a pretty good spot there. But I think Binnington has done a really good job, and he's certainly putting his best foot forward for not only our team but for whatever comes internationally.
We're talking to Doug Armstrong, president of hockey operations, general manager for the St. Louis Blues. Army, you had to make a very difficult choice of changing your coach this year, and Craig Berube, Stanley Cup champion, and of course you do make the big bucks as you make big decisions like that. But all kidding aside here, and this isn't me fishing on what Craig Berube did wrong or why you made the change, but I'm just, there's a lot of markets, including this one here, and sometimes they think the easy decision is just change the coach, and some teams have that type of pressure, or at least when do you kind of look at something? I got to think as a president or a GM, it's got to be one of the hardest decisions for that to be made. And when do you know, and when do you not know, and when do you sit there and go, is it the players, is it the effort, is it the system? It's got to be one of the toughest decisions you'll ever make at your position.
Yeah, it is the most uncomfortable because you get a partnership, and the reality is, and it's not tongue in cheek, like for me, I talk to the head coach when I talk to my wife, because every day there's something to talk about. Every day there's something that we're going about, and you build that relationship up with your coach. And then Craig and I went back to in 2016. He was doing some scouting for us. Then he went to coach our American Hockey League team, and he came up as an associate coach, and he takes over as a head coach. So he and I had a long relationship, and that's the last thing you want to do. But you get to a point where you've tried to organizationally you've worked with each other. You've tried to push and prod and do different things, and at some point you have to make a drastic change. And it's not a fun decision. I had to do that in the past with a good friend in Ken Hitchcock. Craig, will always be credited for winning our first and only Stanley Cup in St. Louis so far, and he's a great coach. And you're right. He did nothing wrong. There's nothing. It wasn't like that Craig Berube was doing things wrong. We just weren't responding as a team, as an organization, and unfortunately, we had to try something drastic to get ourselves back on track. At
the end of the day, less of a checklist or check a box and more of a gut feel, the way you work.
That's the way I work. Yeah, and I've talked to other managers that they say, "How do you know?" And I say, "You just know. Just one day you wake up and you feel that it's time, and you want to make that be the last decision you make, meaning you've gone through everything else, but there just becomes a time where you feel you owe it to the organization and to the fan base, and to see if you can get things back on track." And it seems like it's a reflection on the coach, but it's a reflection on the organization as a whole. And ultimately, the coach you change the coach, but it's not the coach's fault. The coach just is at the crosshairs of change.
Do you think that a coach can change their ways in season? Like if something's not working, do you think it's possible for a coach to say, all right, I'm going to be a stricter coach, or I'm going to change to an offensive system? Or do you think guys are just kind of comfortable being the way they are and take it or leave it?
I don't think it's take it or leave it. I think people want to evolve and they want to change. I think everyone wants to change. But when you've had success and when you've had a relationship with a lot of players for a long time, what you don't want to be is disingenuous to who you really are. Craig has a style. He's open. He's firm. He has a strong belief in veteran players. And that belief was well earned by those players too. And so he wanted to give them every opportunity. And this wasn't just something that happened this year. Last year, we thought we were going to be in a different spot. We had good players in O'Reilly and Tarasenko and Achari and Barbashev and Mikkola that we traded at the deadline because we weren't having a good year. And it just felt that, we had to make a change. But as far as I think Craig has evolved, he and I worked a lot over the summer trying to get to know what makes these younger players tick right now and how we can help them get the best out of their career. So, but at the end of the day, I think Craig Berube has the greatest success when he's Craig Berube and not trying to be anybody else. And I would say that any coach or manager, if you try and be somebody you're not, I think people read through that quickly.
Army, you mentioned the schedule, the next, 4 games, including Toronto Maple Leafs twice. That starts tonight. You're going to dictate your approach to the trade deadline through the next 4 games. Will they play a huge factor, or you got this master game plan?
I'd say we have a more of a macro look on it than 1 or 2 games wins or losses. And again, our team is situated differently this year, where we don't. Where last year we had, prime time free agents that could change organizations, meaning they could go in there and play in their top 6 and really help out. This year we're in a little different spot, so I don't think Kyper and guys that we're not one player away. Let's say trading 2 first-round picks to get 1 player, and then someone say, "Well, geez, that makes them better than Vegas or Dallas." You have to be realistic in where you're at, but also knowing that Florida made it to the final last year. Like, crazy things happen when you get to the playoffs. LA won 2 championships coming from the 7th and 8th seed. You'd rather be higher up in the food chain, and obviously the better teams are going to be favored to win. But I don't think there's a trade we can make right now that's going to have the hockey world say, "Wow, they're certainly now better than the top 3 or 4 teams in the league." So we're not going to be spending future assets on short-term solutions.
Doug, I want to ask you a bit about toughness, just not fighting toughness, but just physical play from your core guys. We covered the Toronto Maple Leafs a lot. The guys who play the most are not the heaviest guys. It's Mitch Marner and Nylander and whatever. They're not an angry physical bunch. And I look at the way you've built your team, and I see a lot of Braden Shen and Kevin Hayes and Sammy Blaze and sort of these guys that are talented, skilled guys, but not physical. Do you think it's possible for a team to surround a core with enough sort of physicality that a team can get through the playoffs? Here in Toronto, people are trying to figure out, can you do it when your core guys themselves are not a gritty bunch?
Well, I disagree that they're not gritty. They're not gritty. But they're gritty in competitive areas to score goals. They're gritty in certain ways. But I think the Leafs certainly have a great core, and I think they've been close to being favorites to win rounds. They haven't gotten it done. There's different things that happen, but I think that you have to stay consistent to who you are and what you believe in. And one of the reasons that we built our team like that is because to get Austin Matthews, you're not getting 112 points and getting Austin Matthews. You're getting like 60, and so you have to. So we built our team more on the strength of the whole group because we didn't have those superstar top end players. I think if you have a chance to get those superstar top end players, you probably build your team a little bit differently. So I know that from the outside looking in, the Leafs have bringing O'Reilly last year, bringing in Chari. They've gone about trying to address that, and I think the thing that Bob Gainey taught me about managing in the NHL is that you never know when your your time is going to come. So you just got to go to the dance every year. You just got to go to the dance every year. And maybe the year that people aren't expecting a lot from a certain organization, they'll win it all. But if you're not there, I guarantee you're not going to win. So that's a strange way to answer your question, but I don't think you should try and become somebody who you're not.
Army, last week we heard USA Hockey announce Bill Guerin as a GM of the Olympics and Four Nations face-off team. So when's Hockey Canada going to announce you?
That's a better question for Hockey Canada. No, I've always enjoyed working for Team Canada in any capacity, and there's so many great people involved with Team Canada on and off the ice that I'm sure when they want to make their decision, they'll make it. And the way I look at it, Kyper, I'm in a great spot either way. If I get to help out in any way, I'll go, and if not, I'll be down in Naples at a little pub having a beer, watching all the games. So that's a win.
But you definitely want the job if they're interested, correct?
I certainly want to. I don't want the job. If they think I can help out, I'd love. I've never said no to them, and I never would. I think I just enjoy being around the best on best, and it's not. Obviously, you want to win, but what I get out of it more is learning from some of the best in the league. Like the people I've had an opportunity to work with on the coaching staff and management staff have made me so much better at the job I do every day. So I'd look at it selfishly. It's not to go and you obviously go to want to win, but the information that you pick up and the friendships that you gain and the knowledge that you gain is so valuable that as long as you're learning, I think you're moving ahead. And Team Canada always gave me an opportunity to learn.
Great stuff, Army. We really appreciate your time. Wish you the best of luck, and thanks for coming on our show.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Guys, always enjoy talking to you. Take care. All the best.
All right. So Doug Armstrong, President of Hockey Ops and General Manager for the St. Louis Blues, Stanley Cup champion.
But would you put Connor Bedard on the first line? And what do you think? Barzal, Marner, and also I have 1,000 Canada questions.
Yeah. I don't know.
He sounded excited about the pub in Naples, boy. He's not going to lie.
He's like, do you want the job? And he's like,
Where's Hockey Canada right now? Like are they...
Do you want, they're busy.
But there's a tournament going on.
I know.
The USA team announced something. Right?
I think they probably should just lay low in terms of making positive announcements and stuff. I don't think it's a good time for them right now.
No?
I know.
But to Kip's point, like there's a job to be done and someone's got to do and not.
That's right. But you're still paid to do a job.
But you don't think...
Is that a paid job? I don't mean Hockey Canada, like Doug or whatever. They wouldn't pay you for that, would they?
No. That would be a volunteer of Doug's time, I think, to go and... But someone's getting paid to make those decisions.
Correct. Yes.
Right?
So do you think they maybe have already talked to him?
I don't know. They've got to be talking about this tournament, and they got to be talking about who's going to lead the charge the Olympics.
Well, it was going to be Doug at the Olympics.
Yep.
Right? He was the guy for 24.
And Cooper was going to be the coach. Is that still the case?
Let's go.
The one thing that bothers me, though, is that...
You got a lot of things that bother you.
Yeah, I know, but this is bothering me, is that the team, the 2018 team, the whole team remains suspended still.
Mm-hmm.
So
not by NHL rules.
But Hockey Canada.
But Hockey Canada... Remember Daly and Bettman were saying that they would make the decision.
They specifically got asked about this at the press conference that I was at. That this is not a Hockey Canada sanctioned event. It's an NHLPA sanctioned
I know
event.
that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I don't believe that a guy like Cale Makar should still be suspended indefinitely if he's come out and he said, I wasn't there. I had nothing to do with this. Unless you have, like, real evidence against me, all you're doing is just you're painting me with the same brush here.
It's very true.
And I don't like it at all.
And I got nothing to do with this.
Yes, I've got nothing to do with it. Yeah. I've said it. I've talked to unless I'm being charged, get me off that list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. No, you're right. And that's for a list of guys.
If I'm Cale Makar or, I'm demanding Hockey Canada to take me off that list tomorrow, or I will never play for you ever again. That's it. And an apology too, public apology for putting me on that list still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are those guys like? the fact finding's done. Why do we still have a list of these kids who had nothing to do with it?
Exactly. So what? You can just continue to kind of drag me into that?
Yeah.
No, not fair.
No,
not fair.
That's a
I really
good
thought
point.
about that, but it's true.
Yeah. So we will see when Hockey Canada decides to make a decision on that. Presumably not too far down the road.
Is Cooper still the coach?
Yeah, Tampa Bay's on a tear. The best team in the league lately, aren't they?
Okay.
Your favorite team? Your favorite coach?
Yeah. Coop. Be tough for me.
So what did you think of Doug Armstrong's answer to, changing a coach? It's just time, right? You just know.
He's just a hockeyman through and through, though, Doug Armstrong.
Yeah.
There's not many guys in the league I would trust their feel more on things than that guy.
Very true. And also, he's thoughtful, but still tough. He's made hard decisions when he's had to.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of respect for Doug Armstrong. And
yeah.
Because, there's a situation here with Sheldon Keefe that, there's the people that think it's a coaching problem. Others say, no, he's fine, but it's a lack of depth or talent on the blue line or inconsistent goaltending.
yeah, I tried to ask questions with the Toronto Maple Leafs in mind, and that was why I asked if he believes. Yeah,
that's all we do.
I know. So
That's the
We're all
whole
fishing.
if you believe a coach can change, if you believe a coach can become a hard ass all of a sudden, or change the structure, or are you who you are? And I kind of believe that for it to work, you have to be true to yourself and authentic, and players will see through if you're not.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard for a coach to suddenly, you've said accountability and whatever.
Well, I'm really interested tonight to see how Sheldon can get these guys to tighten up with the absence of Morgan Rielly tonight. Or are they just going to kind of blow the zone and try to get a 2-0 lead and outgun them?
I'm betting on the Leafs tonight. These are their spots where they feel nervous about their situation, and all of a sudden they give you a performance. If they don't, I'd be real worried. But yeah, no, that is something to watch for sure. Yeah. What kind of two-way play do you get?
This is a shaky. It's just shaky for me right now. Everything.
You're not feeling it tonight either?
I'll tell you what.
I'm just not
I'm
feeling-
actually not worried with the Leafs. I'm worried about the goaltending.
I'm worried about everything.
Sammy's going to go poop the crease.
I'm thrilled.
I'm looking at the bottom half of this lineup, looking at this decor. I'm looking at the goaltending. I'm like, this team is far from being really good. They are.
Listen,
It's not
Legason,
close to
I'm
the
happy
same team.
Legason's back.
They've got-
consistently.
they've got some holes to plug on that blue line. That has to be the number one priority. And you just roll the dice
Do it then.
on Joseph Wall and Samsonov.
Then do it on the D thing. Like he talked about how Binnington was exposed by them giving up the most high danger chances. Well, how do you think Samsonov and crew has felt this year? Help him out a little.
There's lots of rumors out there about, Saros and Markstrom. It's like, just for sure the Leafs shouldn't be in on that.
It's just a waste of assets.
Well, we'll
Not
find
a
out.
waste.
A waste of assets.
No, not a waste, but the cost would be huge.
We're going to find more out at the top of the hour. We're going to welcome in our Elliotte Friedman, Hockey Night in Canada, 32 Thoughts, and we're going to get into all those juicy rumors.
We're just going to ask Elliotte how many games Rielly got until he knows, over and over and over.
I feel bad because I asked Elliot this morning. I'm like, hey, could you come on today? And he's a busy guy. He goes on the radio every single day. And I'm like, can you come on and react to the Rielly news?
The
And
good
we
thing-
haven't got the Rielly news.
The good thing, we've had mild weather, so we're not getting Elliotte when he's shoveling or eating or drinking.
So he only eats in
or
the cold?
I don't know, but he's really calmed down in that part.
No
Get
comments.
him on camera.
Taken 30 years for him, but he's now doing interviews for us
No comment.
and not eating, which is really good.
No comment.
All right.
I abstain.
All right, thanks to Doug Armstrong, General Manager, President, the St. Louis Blues, as they get set to battle the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight in the first of how many without Morgan Rielly? We wait and wait. And as we said, top of the hour, Elliotte Friedman next. Don't go away. It's the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. This is our national edition of our program. We are live on Sportsnet, Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. All right, boys. Sammy.
Yeah.
What's the Morgan watch right now? Are we going to get a decision or what? I'm not going to hold this whole show up hostage for just one lousy announcement, are we?
I don't know. The longer it goes.
Yeah, the more I think they're making
microphone.
a breakdown video to explain.
Turn your mic on.
Every time for the show. Why I think it's taking a long time is because they're making a breakdown video to explain to you why it's a 1,000-game suspension for Rielly. Like,
yeah.
Here's what he did, what we saw.
Do they have any other choice?
This is not a hockey play.
Do they have any other choice but to match David Perron's 6 game?
Of course they do. I mean, it's so different to me. The guy who gets hit knows he's getting hit. The guy who gets hit isn't hurt. The guy who gets hit kind of guides the stick up. It's way less than Perron for me.
Cross-checking is a common penalty in the game.
Sure.
It can usually be sufficiently penalized by the on-ice officials.
And it was.
Sure.
This is cross-checking.
I get like chills of like grade 6 history class with a National Geographic movie, on a Friday at
Listen
2
to that
p.m.
narrator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Narrator?
Narrator.
Is that what you're looking for?
Struggling.
It's all right. Words, national show.
That's only my job.
That sounded like we were attending an insurance seminar.
It is a very computerized sounding voice to me. But anyway. So, yeah, we will await that. In the meantime, the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to look very different. Jake McCabe on power play 1. They play the St. Louis Blues tonight in what should be a real test with no defenseman. Legason in, Liljegren, top pair. Very different looking Toronto Maple Leafs team.
In a few minutes, we'll welcome in Elliotte Friedman, Hockey Night in Canada, 32 Thoughts. We'll get into the Morgan Rielly suspension hearing and how early he expects to hear an outcome or whether or not they could even drag into puck drop tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Also, lots of talk now that the All-Star break is over and 30 games to go, but a lot less towards the March 8th deadline. And we got to think things are heating up.
Yeah, the interesting talk, and it's something that Elliotte mentioned on Saturday's headlines, was about Markstrom the Flames and Devils just having a conversation or two, because it makes sense. The Devils are looking for someone with some term. He's been excellent this year. God, he was so good in that loss last night.
The goaltending was incredible last night.
Yes, on both sides.
Calgary loses to the New York Rangers at 2-0, but that was a classic goaltending battle. And I tell you what, if I'm a team like the New Jersey Devils, I am all over Markstrom.
Well, and if you're the Flames, just looking at the arc of where you're trying to get to, it doesn't make sense to keep Markstrom. And all right, so next year he's who knows? Maybe an 890, and you can't trade him anymore because he's got 2 years at 6 left. Like, he has real value right now. This is the time for them. So we'll see if they decide to act on that or not. We'll lean on Elliotte for that one too. I'm sure he knows stuff about things.
Yeah, and it is a fairly busy, I think, goaltending market right now.
Who else do you think would be of interest out there?
Saros.
Oh, yeah. So Nashville is currently chasing the second wild card spot.
Yeah. But they're taking calls on Saros.
They are, eh?
Yeah. And they're listening.
Super tempting as, he's a guy with another year on his deal. I think he makes 5-5.
Yeah.
So you get him for 2 playoff runs. And he's been a Vezina finalist, right? A number of times now.
And the other one is in Anaheim.
Atlanta's already in your head.
Yeah. Gibson.
I'm
John.
sick of hearing the Gibson thing. Like, is he going or not?
No.
Like, is he even good anymore? He plays in a bad team every year.
And that's why he's very tempting, because
you don't know.
I assume that if you're trading for him, you believe that your team's way better than Anaheim's. So I want to see him on a better team.
I will say Saros is having a bit of a down year this year after, 920, so 915, 914, 927, 918, 919, and then down to 902 this year.
Yeah. So that's like league average and a crummy team.
Yeah.
They've been pretty good.
297 goals against this year for him. So
I'd bet on a guy like him for sure.
Well, obviously.
Yeah. You like him more than Ilya Samsonov?
I do.
You do?
I do. Yeah. I'm going to tell you I do like him.
Yeah.
Well, I think I was talking about this last year at the deadline, where it's like, this is a guy to me where you trade your finest meats and cheeses to get him because he makes a difference. Like, it's not getting a another backup-y type of guy that maybe can contribute. You're getting a bona fide starter for this year and next, where you actually have a chance to go deep because you're going to get really good goaltending.
So Nashville doesn't believe typically that they're a team that can bottom out in that market. Is that fair to say, Kip? Like they like to just at least stay in the mix every year?
Listen, I think Vancouver's ruined it for a lot of clubs to think that you have or that you need a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
I think organizations are going to look at ownership groups are going to look at the Vancouver Canucks and go back to their general manager or president and say, hey, put me on the Vancouver program there where they get to compete in a year and a half.
Right. I'm going to say, give me Pettersson and Quinn Hughes and Thatcher Demko. Give me a great number one center, D, and goalie. We can do that. That's the hard part, is putting those pieces together. Do you think Roman Josi would ever be an option for someone?
I don't think so.
He makes $9 million for this year and 3 more. He's 33 years old. They don't seem to be trying to win.
I don't know
today.
if that market can do that.
You got to have some stars, eh?
You need to sell tickets, and
the stars that Decor has had over the years. My God.
And this guy could still be good for 3 or 4 years still.
Yeah.
I think he can play at a high level at 35. He doesn't strike me as a guy that's going to fall off a cliff.
No. I'm very much on team, like, you need good players. Even if you're rebuilding, you need some guys. Look at the Raptors, and Scotty Barnes suddenly doesn't have any great veterans around him, and he's having a pout fest in a loss.
Don't bring that up.
Sammy was there last night.
Yeah, it was.
He watched Wembanyama have a triple-double with 10 blocks.
Yeah, I don't want to do really Raps takes in the National Hour, but that is the most impressive thing I've maybe ever seen live at a sporting event, was Victor Wembanyama. 25,
the dunk on Pirtle from
27 points, 15 rebounds, 11 blocks,
and
triple-double with blocks.
7'4".
And he moves like he's a point guard.
And
he's slender man. He's just moving around out there. I've never seen anything like it. It was truly mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So
the Raptors, they're 10-40 something, and they beat the Raptors by 30 last night. Scotty Barnes left the bench
Elliott's
early, having a pout. Oh.
He's on his way.
Okay.
So there you go.
Was he shoveling?
Maybe. It's supposed to snow Thursday, so maybe he's getting the.
And how were your seats last night?
Very good, Kipper. Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah, very good.
You bet you, kid.
And we actually hopefully no Scotiabank Arena security are listening, but we moved down even further, and we were like almost courtside.
Is it kind of empty now?
Yeah, it's pretty quiet. I would
It
say.
is pretty quiet.
I'm shocked too, just for that kid being in town. That
So
always
is this
ran.
just
a lot of humming and hawing?
Is this just still like basketball? Like is this? We only love you if you're winning.
The Raptors there was definite talk, like the Raptors could pass the Leafs in Toronto in terms of popularity. That definitely happened. And
I will say they're a tough watch, boys.
Yeah.
They are just a mishmash group of not a good team. Anyways,
All right.
Okay.
Elliotte was there last night too.
As promised, the star of our show remembered us. Let's bring in Elliotte Friedman, Hockey Night in Canada, and 32 Thoughts. You good? Oh, you had
good,
to.
guys. How are you guys doing?
It explains everything. You had to do your hair before you joined us.
No, I was listening to
Dynamite.
Sam tell everyone how he had better seats than I did last night. So I was enjoying that.
Have you looked in the mirror lately? I'm just wondering.
You know what, Nick? No, I know what I look like. It doesn't get any better.
I thought maybe this is you pulling your hair out, trying to figure out how many games Morgan Rielly is going to get.
I cannot wait until this is over. I am so tired of this story.
I know.
What do you? First of all, like, unlike anything else, right? There's a suspension, and then there's a Toronto Maple Leaf controversial suspension. And is it true you're getting hammered from both sides on where you kind of stand on this? I guess.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? Like on Saturday night. So when it happened, I was waiting for Sportsnet to post the replay so I could retweet it, and I tagged player safety. Let's see what at NHL Department of Player
just in case they missed it.
Yeah, because you know what? If I hadn't told them,
They would never
wouldn't
have known.
it happened.
I saw people calling
Good
you
job,
a narc.
Elliotte.
You narc.
I was like, to be honest, I didn't even realize I did it. So I just didn't even think about it. I just did it. And then like all the Leaf fans are calling me a narc, and it was so funny. I was laughing my head off. Like one guy, like I used to have a program that deleted all of my tweets after 3 months. I guess it doesn't work anymore. So there were people who went back through all my tweets. They sent me screenshots of it, and they're like, "You have never tagged Department of Player Safety before," and so this proves how much you hate the Maple Leafs. And I was laughing
We got a cheese-eating rat in here. That's the Departed.
So then when I said that, when I wrote that, or I said on the pod that I didn't think it was deserving of like an in-person hearing, like then the Senators fans came at me. But the best part was that the people who got mad at me for narking on the Leafs, like they were sending me DMs saying, "This isn't good enough. You have to go further to prove your loyalty to the Leafs." Like I was showing some of this stuff to my buddies, and they were dying laughing. It's wild, man. It is really wild.
Well, wait till they find out the NHL's fixed like the NFL, and it's all been predetermined.
Elliott's going to leak the script.
The script is in.
Yeah. So where are we at on this whole thing? I asked you, I sent you a text the other day, and you're explaining to me that the frequency of someone getting an in-person hearing and then having it walked back from 6 games is wildly uncommon.
Yeah, it's 2. I found 2. I found 2 cases. I found a John Moore suspension from 2014 where it was an in-person hearing, and he got 5 games, and that was a headshot. And I found one from Dmitry Kulikov. It was a clip on Tyler Seguin from 2015, and he got 4 games. Those are the only 2 examples I have. I think the Maple Leafs initially, when they got out of Saturday night, I think they thought that, Rielly might get 2 or 3 games, maybe 3. But when it was in person, there just isn't. Honestly, guys, I thought Rielly was going to get 2 games, maybe 3. That's what I kind of thought. But then when it was in person, I was like, oh, they better be prepared for 6. And you know what teams think, whether it's right or wrong, they think that the numbers kind of not made up, but they think in a lot of ways that the Department of Player Safety, rightly or wrongly, they feel that they've made their decision before you go in. But all you can do is present the best defense you can and hope you can convince it to shave it down. Like I really got the impression that if Toronto gets out of there and Rielly gets 4 games, they're going to consider that a major victory.
Do you think they would still appeal 4 games?
I think it's possible. I do. I think it's possible. I don't know. To be honest, if it was me, I said this to a couple people today, Justin. If it was 4 games, I would just get out of there and say that's a W. But that's not my decision to make.
Unless they just, regardless of money possibly being saved for a player or getting it reduced, they just want to hold you accountable on the reasons why and write them down on paper for me so we have something to look back on.
Yeah, I think that the reason why here, Nick, is clearly because to me it was a revenge play. It wasn't revenge like Spezza was seeking revenge, or wasn't revenge that the way Perron was seeking revenge. It was revenge for the play by Ridley Gregg, the new villain in the movie of this Toronto Maple Leafs season. But also, I think because it happened after the play, it happened at a time where the play was supposed to be dead. I know the NHL really frowns on that, but. Again, I think the same thing, Nick. I'd love to see everything written down. I'd love to see, if you wanted to, they could have done a pay-per-view of this hearing today, and they would have made millions. The cap would go up $10 million if you could sell a pay-per-view to this one today.
What do you make of all the online videos, the Zapruder-style films being like, this didn't get this or this got that as comparables? Is it just a lot of Leafs fans, trying to put their finger on the scale a little bit, or is there some merit in some of the previous non-calls?
Well, when I watch this stuff, the number one thing I think of, honestly, Justin, is thank God for these people, because they're the reason we all have jobs. These are the people who are they are keeping us employed. They care a lot. They're really passionate. I'm joking with you about the DMs, but the vast majority of them I think are really funny, and I really do enjoy them. And like the Leaf fans, they really care. They really care, and I have no doubt that there was someone in that office looking at some of those plays. Like if they didn't remember the Chase-on play, or they didn't remember the Joel Edmondson, Wayne Simmons play, I guarantee the Maple Leafs were clipping all these. Like what I wrote today, going through all of the suspensions or disciplinary measures that have been taken for cross-checking. Someone said to me this morning, after I wrote it, that the Leafs were doing that too. They were going through every cross-checking penalty or suspension or non-suspension or fine and saying, how does this compare to what Rielly does? So, I think it's great. I think fan engagement is great. I think these are passionate people, and I wish sometimes people did my homework for me back in the day, like some people did some of the Leafs homework for them over the past couple of days. And guys, like, you both played big games, big rivalries. This Toronto-Ottawa rivalry, it's been dead for a few years. And now we're all wondering, okay, when's that first game of the season? Toronto-Montreal usually play the first Wednesday night of the season. I wonder now if it's going to be Toronto-Ottawa opening night next year, just because after this, everyone's going to want to see the next time these two teams play each other.
And all it took was an empty net slap shot to get it going. We're joined by Elliotte Friedman from Hockey Night in Canada.
Nick, like when you played, what would you have been expected to do if that happened when you were out there?
Acme Dynamite, like Wile E. Coyote. They would have dropped an anvil from the rafters.
It's right up there with the pumpernickel right by your bench, right? For sure. So, Elliotte, we got to talk trade deadline. It's sneaking up here, and we still have a lot of teams kind of that middle ground on what to do, and are we in it, are we not in it? And Seattle would be one of them, Minnesota Wild, Nashville. You'd think Calgary would be, but we know they can't be. They have to unload. No. And I'm thinking...
Yeah, they're looking to move.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, the haul that they could get between Tanev, Hanifin, and Markstrom should excite Calgary Flame fans in the near future.
Well, I think also, too, the way they've played in the middle of all this, it hasn't been easy, but they had a great road trip, and I thought they looked a little bit worn out in what I saw last night of the Ranger game. They competed pretty hard. Like the one thing I think Calgary's done really well is I think that they've identified some young NHL players who would do well with opportunity. Like you look at Sharangovich this year. That's a perfect example. He's a guy who got knocked out of the top 6 in New Jersey, but they said, this guy, we think there's an opportunity for him, and he's been one of their best players. Kuzmenko, is he as good as he was last year in Vancouver? No. But is he as bad as he was this year in Vancouver? No. There's a player there. And I think that's one thing that the Flames have done very well, is identify guys who might benefit from a new shot with them. But I agree with you. I mean, between what they can get for Tanev and what they can get for Hanifin and what I think they might have gotten for Markstrom had this trade gone through, then I think they're rebuilding well, and they're playing hard. Like, the one thing Calgary said is this is not a total rebuild for them. They do want to get guys who can play now, and they've done that. But I like the moves they've made, and I think they've got a chance to do a few more. I think the other one here that was interesting with this whole Markstrom situation is New Jersey. It says to me that New Jersey has not given up on the playoffs this year. Now, they're looking for a goalie with term. That's why they were willing to do Markstrom. This deal came pretty close to happening. But it also says to me that they're not interested in waiting for the offseason. They want to go now. And especially if Rielly misses some time here, the Leafs are generally in a good spot. They've got the best points percentage of all those teams on the bubble. They've got games in hand. But, it says to me that teams like the Devils are not giving up on their playoff hopes for this season.
Yeah. The Leafs are in that spot. The Flyers are still in, who, they've won a few, but you don't expect them to stay too hot. So, we see the Lindholm thing happen. Tanev sounds like it's going to happen at some point. There seems to have been a shift in mindset for GMs in terms of getting it done early, being the first one to make this move when everyone is coveting certain players. Have you seen that change over your career, that deadline day itself is maybe it's a deadline month now?
Well, I think what happens, Justin, is there's a guy like Rutherford. He's always been like that. If you go through his history, the years where he won the Stanley Cup, he made moves early. He did Doug Wade, I think it was, early. The year that it was either Doug Wade or Mark Recchi. He did really early the year Carolina won the Cup. He did Trevor Daley very early the first time Pittsburgh won the Cup under his watch. And if you look at it this year, he did Zadorov early, he did Lindholm early, and that led to Winnipeg making their move from Monahan. I think, I still do think there are people who prefer to wait because, there's a lot of GMs who believe that, like one of the things that's happening with Tanev is Calgary's trying to get a first rounder for him. And right now, I don't believe there's a first rounder on the table for Tanev. But what happens between now and March 8th that forces someone who's maybe not willing to do it to sort of say, okay, we're going to do it. And sometimes I think the pressures of the deadline force people to really tell you what they're willing to do. So I think that's always going to be the case. But I do like a guy like Rutherford who kind of says, I'm not playing by everybody else's rules. I'm playing by my rules. And my rule is I go when I want to go.
Elliotte, I always revert to you because you're the insider here. But the money that Calgary has thrown at Hanifin, to me, is really hard to turn down. I heard as much as 7.5. Someone told me, and this is unconfirmed, that they might be even willing to go to $8 million on an AAV for Hanifin. What are you hearing on just the decision on not making it about money and maybe just going south of the border? What's your latest intel on that?
Well, I believe the offer was 8 times 7.5, and that was the one that was earlier in the year that they basically had a verbal agreement on. But then, Hanifin changed his mind, and if it's changed since then, I don't know that. I believe that was I know that was the offer back then, and I think that's the offer now. So unless it's a 7 times 8.5, Nick, I never heard of an 8 salary.
Yeah,
I heard 7.5. Not saying it's wrong, but I hadn't heard that. But that's the figure. It's the $60 million range. And look, do we know 100% what the answer is? Not officially, but I definitely think that it's a situation, Nick, where every day this goes without a deal, the more other teams are saying he's in play. So, I really do feel, Nick, that until we get a signing, the other teams are going to assume that he's available. Yes, I do think his preference is to go to the United States. I believe that was indicated last summer, and then Hanifin sort of softened that, but I still think that's the preference. But, Nick, like I've heard a lot of people tying Hanifin to Toronto. I would say this. I think if Toronto wanted to make a deal right now, I don't think he would have a problem with Toronto as a step between now and between previous team and next team.
A rental.
But I think the odds would be pretty long he would sign long term here. I could always be wrong, but that's my read on it.
So how does, excuse my ignorance on this, but his agent would talk to the team that he would potentially be traded to and say, here's a number, and that's all on the up and up with the NHL, or is that all sort of something that happens below deck?
Well, I think, first of all, you can't ask for permission. Some teams are different about it than others. Some teams don't like giving that permission, Justin, because they feel that they lose control of the situation. Some teams are okay with doing it if they think it's going to allow them to make a better deal. I think it's all on the preference of the trading team. However, and Doug McLean, who comes on for your Crazy Friday shows, your Off the Rails Fridays, he used to explain tampering very well in the NHL, and I would leave it to him to tell you how it works when they don't get official permission.
You expect, though, the Leafs to be very aggressive here, right? There's no punting it down to next year. This is a team that has star players in their prime. They got to do something here.
I have to say, Nick, I don't know if I would go all in this year with this team. I don't. But I'm not making those decisions. The Maple Leafs are making those decisions. And look, I think they've weighed the possibility of a first for Tanev. They haven't gotten there yet. I'm pretty sure that I think they had a first on the table when it was both Zadorov and Tanev. I think they are willing to trade their first rather than one of their top prospects, Nick. And that's what I would do too. But I think they'd prefer if their first went for more than a rental. I think they'd want to know that they can keep the player longer term. Either they get a player who has term or someone like Tanev who they're very comfortable that they could extend. Although I think Ottawa's made it I think everybody kind of sees Ottawa in the off season as a team that's willing to throw quite a bit at Tanev. So there's that challenge now in the middle of all of this. But I really do think, Nick, that Toronto would prefer, if they were using their first rounder, that it's something that they would be able to hold a bit longer than just a rental. We'll see where it goes, but that's what I think their preference is.
Well, Elliotte, between now and March 8th, there'll be plenty names for you to comb through. Comb through, Elliotte.
Do you guys
comb?
Do you guys do you guys know that meme on Twitter with the 3 dragons? There's the dragon. There's the powerful looking dragon, the powerful looking dragon, and the third dragon that looks like a complete moron. Someone just sent me that with this 3 screen of your hair, and mine. They're like, and he wrote to me, he said, "You look like an idiot normally, but next to the 10 out of 10 hairdos on those 2 guys, you look like an even bigger idiot."
I'm telling you, we've worked a lot together, and this is the first time where your hair doesn't look real.
Everything here is 100% real, Nick.
We appreciate your time, regardless of all Nick's abuse. So.
The real Elliotte Friedman from Hockey Night in Canada, 32 Thoughts. Thanks for coming and having some fun on our show, pal.
Pleasure, guys. Take care. See
Thanks,
you soon.
All right. He's awesome.
He is great.
I love giving it to him.
He said Doug explains tampering in a certain way.
Yeah.
Did you happen to know offhand with that?
Oh, just that it happens all the time.
Yeah. We'll throw it out there to Doug. But yeah, you go through a barista at a local Starbucks and
yes. And there's a lot of hypotheticals.
Yeah.
What would you say
if this were to
Yes.
Okay. Not saying it's an offer, but
if this guy happened to be available, what do you think if this guy was involved in that?
Well, there's been some tampering stuff in the NBA that people have gotten charged for.
Yeah.
But I don't think, has it happened? Has people been charged in the NHL?
I don't know. All I can think of.
Yeah, there's been some cases.
All I can think of was Doug Armstrong talking about being on Hockey Canada, and like you're a GM who has the ear of all the good players in the league.
Yeah.
Be like, you should play for us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about what happened with Stevie Y and Martin St. Louis.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a precarious thing. Yeah. All right. Game time, boys?
Yep.
It's game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Now, looking at the games tonight, what do you think the line on the Leafs game is?
I know.
Oh, you know.
I won't.
I think they've at home they probably would have the Leafs favorites.
They're heavy favorites.
Heavy.
Yeah,
Minus
big time.
220. So
Oh my God, that's way more than I.
Yeah, so minus 220 on Bet365.
Okay. What is that based on? That you got a guy still on a 70-goal pace, and Mitch Marner and Willie Nylander's 100-point
Last game
guy.
of the trip for the Blues.
That everyone wants to bet on the Leafs. They want to bet on the Leafs.
So they bumped the line up a little bit. But to me, getting plus 180 on the Blues and my favorite spot out of conference.
Riley, Samsonov in net.
Out of conference opponent, red hot with a bunch of Ontario boys on it coming into Toronto. I really feel like it's a great bet. And if you want to juice up to plus 600, Robert Thomas, who's been red hot from Aurora, Ontario, plus 600 for them to win and him to score a goal.
Did you have Thomas on your Team Canada?
No. You?
He's knocking on the door.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah, he's a really good player.
Yeah.
I've watched him a couple times.
I think he's getting better. And it was Doug Armstrong who dropped the Adam Oates type of reference on him.
Well, his numbers are crazy. He's 57 points in 51 games. Like, he's well above a point per on a team that's hanging on to a wild card spot.
Who did he play with during that cup run? Did he play with Maroon at one point? They had that like really good line. I remember him being a rookie and him being very, very good.
You know what's crazy too is they have guys in their team that are like minus 18. He's plus 16 on the Blues. So
no, he's
their best plus minus,
which
guy.
Is good.
Really solid player. So to me, getting him to score a goal and the Blues to win the game at plus 600 is a good bet.
His average ice time's 21 minutes a night. They're using the hell out of him.
Yeah, he plays. And I'm looking at the latest game tonight is the Detroit Red Wings are visiting the Edmonton Oilers, which is a good game because the Red Wings have been very hot and the Oilers are scuffling a little bit, but they did come off a 16-game winning streak recently, which we may have talked about a little bit.
Came up.
I don't mind the Red Wings at plus 185 in this game. You know, the Oilers have been struggling. I know they're played for their first two good teams that they've played in a long time. That's why they actually lost because they were sick of beating tomato cans a bunch of times in a row. I don't mind the Red Wings as an underdog in this game. I really don't.
If they win, that helps your Leafs. So don't you think bad things only happen to the Leafs? So
yeah, maybe
Edmonton should win.
Yeah, I think. Well, Edmonton they're minus 225 favorites, so they should probably win this game. But I think that's a pretty live dog for a team that's been hot recently for the Red Wings. So there you go on that one. And was there any other ones that I was looking at tonight? You have something for me?
Calder.
Oh yes, right. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. The Calder Trophy, you were talking about Brock Faber today in the newsroom. He's plus 300 now to be the Calder winner. Connor Bedard, who has missed how long?
Lots. I don't know exactly.
Still minus 200 to be the Calder winner.
Yeah. And this Faber is playing the whole game for Minnesota. He's going to finish
22 minutes.
Yeah, and he's, I think, above that. And he's on pace for above 50 points as a rookie D-man.
Which is like of his historical proportions.
Yeah.
Right? There's not many guys that have done that.
His assist total is top 10 all time, on the pace he's on.
Hughes did it, right?
Yep. But the pace he's on is top 10 all time for rookie assists. Like, he's unbelievable.
It's such, it's not apples to apples when you've got a much harder position on the blue line than what Bedard goes through every night as a forward.
And it's a name thing, right? Like Bedard's name, it's such a narrative award, but like it should start to tilt a little bit to Brock Faber.
For sure. Like I think he was minus 500 at one point.
Either way, plus 300 is a great bet for Faber to me.
Connor Bedard's played 39 games so far this year. Seems like a lot more than I would have thought. But how many has Faber played?
I don't know.
Like what's the max that Bedard can get to? To me, it's just it's a numbers game. Like, are you going to vote for a guy that's played 60 games?
Yeah, he's probably going to play in the 50s.
Yeah.
Faber right now has played 52 games already, 33 points.
Yeah, that's impressive. And he's only he's got 33 points, 39 games. Bedard does, but it's going to be interesting.
Forward.
It's now back to being a race, so it's a little bit more interesting than just Bedard running away with it. And that was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds. Find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. I saw something about Bedard coming back soon. I think he's back next week potentially.
All right.
I saw that on NHL.com.
You know where the fishbowl?
I would imagine, right? But then,
you know what I would do if I were him? I would see you next winter.
Yeah.
What am I coming back for?
It's a good point.
No, this guy wants to play.
For sure. And
wants to score goals.
You put that fishbowl on, maybe you'll channel his inner World Juniors from Halifax where he just goes on an absolute tear. So
gets wild.
There you go.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll talk about that magic 1,000th NHL game. Alex Pietrangelo just hit it last night with the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll tell you who's next, who's on tap tonight to hit the same mark when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. The Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. Last night, the Golden Knights honored Alex Pietrangelo, played in his 1,000th NHL game. That's a fantastic number.
So many. That's actually 1,000.
What did your dad end up?
You know what? Not a huge number. He played 14 seasons.
That's close.
680 or something. I don't think.
Was he hurt a lot?
I don't know. Let me check. Was there less games in a season?
964.
964.
Yeah. So that's close then.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, with how many playoff games too? I'm sure he
139 points.
So
playoff
yeah,
games.
he was at 1,100 NHL games. So.
96 playoff points.
Let me go ahead and walk that back. Sorry, Dad.
96
It's always
points.
very like you've played regular season games and playoffs. Well, they just lump them all in together.
Well, to me, they're not less valuable NHL games.
So it should be like there was that myth that one playoff suspension is really like 3 regular season games.
Yeah.
So it should be the same thing in the
Game and a
playoffs.
half for the playoffs or something. Yeah, that's a lot of playoff games. Jeez.
Does Alex Pietrangelo get the credit he deserves for being a great player? Because I think I really got to watch him in my last year with Hockey Night in Canada. We covered the St. Louis Blues Stanley Cup
He was so
championship.
good.
And I'm telling you, he completely took me to another level on his appreciation or my lack of appreciation for him until I saw him in that Stanley Cup final.
So we had this conversation while you were making insider phone calls, Sammy and I. Hall of Famer, not a Hall of Famer, Alex Pietrangelo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's on my Hall of Fame.
For sure.
It's actually a much easier case than
Yeah.
it sounds like. You know, a lot of guys are like, well, it's not that hard.
2 Stanley Cups.
Yeah, with different teams as a captain, not the captain, but a captain on both those teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know Mark Stone had the C on his shirt, but he could have easily been right there with Mark Messier captaining 2 teams to a Stanley Cup championship.
And one of my favorite clips of all time from Pietrangelo when he's playing in that weird Lake Tahoe outdoor game and McKinnon picking up pace through the neutral zone. Oh boy!
And he's got 600 points, 596 right now to be exact.
And if we had if we got Doug Armstrong back on our show as we had him in the first hour, and if you haven't had a chance to hear him, please download it because Doug's a really good listen. I believe if Doug Armstrong had a do-over, he would have found a way to sign him and keep him in St. Louis.
Think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Also, in terms of playoff games, this guy's played 132 playoff games to go with his 1,000 regular season games. So massive, massive numbers. I mean,
probably going to add 10, 15 this year to that number.
Also, the most shocking thing about Pietrangelo, because you don't think about him like this, he's 6'3", 215.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a mean streak.
Yeah, we saw that one.
The Leon whack. Loved it.
Yeah, we saw that
and
one.
He's ultra competitive.
You know, pretty good combo. We just described it.
And honestly,
clear Hall of Famer.
Again, George McPhee and Kelly McCrimmon, terrific additions the last few years. But Pietrangelo, for me, is when you establish that you're not only signing a great player, but you're signing a winner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's got the secret sauce.
Yep.
He did it already. That to me took Vegas to another level.
Yep.
And did we say Marchand is hitting 1,000?
The second
Sorry,
man.
I stepped on your bit.
No, that's okay. That's, Ed McMahon did it all those years for Johnny Carson. It's okay.
Did he?
It's the most insulting thing you've ever said to me.
You're like, who's Ed McMahon?
At least call me Andy Richter.
No, I don't know. I don't know any of these.
Okay,
things.
you don't know any of them. Brad Marchand hits 1,000 games tonight for the Boston Bruins. And where do we have him in terms of, I don't know, Hall of Famer, maybe?
Wow.
I don't know. Can he sneak in there? Does he need to sneak in there? Is he going to get in there naturally?
Well, Brad Marchand, 1,000 NHL games in the regular season, has 910 points, which is really, really good. 146 playoff games with 128 points in those. I mean, those are massive numbers on both sides for a guy who plays a role beyond the point getter, right? I mean, God, he's got a case, depending how the next...
I just, when I think of Hall of Famers, I think of game changers.
Guys who were the best guy in the league or top 3 for a number of years of their career.
A guy that can influence a game and a series.
So your point is you don't think of him that way.
I do.
Oh, you do?
Oh, no, I do. I am an impactful player.
Yeah.
Like, I get the numbers.
I would agree with that.
Right?
He has had an impact.
Yeah. And maybe he needs a couple of more years. I don't know.
Pile
but
up the numbers.
I like him a lot.
If he gets to 1,000 points, which is pretty reasonable, right? He's in season 15, 90 points to go. Yeah, I can see it for sure. He's definitely got a case. And an interesting evolution in his career. Here in Toronto, a lot of the talk of Ridley Gregg has been, he was like Brad Marchand in junior. He has that Marchand sort of quality to him. That's a hell of a compliment for a guy who's earned Hart Trophy votes over the course of his career. So, he is the best case scenario for guys who are gritty in the early days of their career.
Brad Marchand against Tampa Bay Lightning tonight for his 1,000th game. And
Sammy, 3-point game coming there. Hey?
For sure.
I did hear that Tampa's in on Hanifin too to replace Sergachev.
It's crazy how many people are in on
Listen,
Tanev when Hanifin is available.
In means that you're making calls, you're inquiring. It doesn't mean that you can get the deal done or that you have enough assets. Mm-hmm. Offhand, I can't tell you how much of the cupboard's left in Tampa because we've seen them over the years make some significant moves to shore up their Stanley Cup championships over the years. Yeah. They would be in a position like Toronto where it's like, okay, how much more you want to drain? Yeah.
We had an interesting guy on in the first hour, and Doug Armstrong, president GM of the St. Louis Blues. They won the Cup in 2018. Is that correct? 2018? Just 5-6 years ago, right? Was that my crazy there? 2018.
Blues?
Blues 19.
18-19.
Yeah, that's right, because Caps were the year before. So that's only 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. Of their 21 draft picks in the next 3 years, they have 22. So they have won a cup. They are in a playoff spot. They have all of their draft picks plus. I mean, how unbelievable a GM job is that? So I look at Tampa Bay and go, they're clearly going to be in a different position at some point, like the Leafs are at some point, where it's like Chicago, where you hit this high and then you bottom out. It's rare to do what the St. Louis Blues have done.
Yeah, except the Chicago Blackhawks have 3 of those big shiny mugs that they can look back on and enjoy, as opposed to the Leafs going through the process with 1 round win.
That gets you through the dark days, for sure.
Yeah.
Other piece of news: the Salt Lake City unnamed team is going to play host to a game next year. The Kings and Golden Knights have a preseason tilt scheduled in Salt Lake City next year.
They're horned up.
I mean, the league's horned up. They're going there.
They're dying to get there.
Take Arizona now and have all the exhibition games you want next year.
You know what? Utah should just be this team, this state that just grabs everyone else's leftovers and keeps the name. So we're the Utah Jazz, even though it's the least jazzy state. And now we're the Salt Lake City Coyotes, which I love. Are they Coyotes in Salt Lake?
No idea.
Who cares? From now on, they're the Coyotes.
Salt Lake City Silver Tips, boys. That's it.
It's a good name.
I know. It sounds really good.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I'm sold on that one.
So Everett's going to have to give up the name. And I guess there's lots of
It's just like the NHL being like, we're the Four Nations face-off now. And it's like, didn't that exist for another... Anyway.
Kitchener Rangers. They're like, what are the Rangers too? Yeah, they've been around forever too, so maybe they were first.
Last night we spoke earlier on the show about a great game against the Rangers and Calgary Flames. Calgary did lose one of their young players, Jacob Pelche. Mm-hmm. Did you see the hit?
No.
It was Trouba came down on him, and we heard the panel last night. I was listening to Ace, Anson Carter, and Luke. And Colby talk about this particular play because it goes into kind of like that whole kind of system now around the league is like these stretch wingers. Mm-hmm. So Pelche was up at the blue line. Yeah. And he got clipped. The moment he had the puck, Jacob Trouba just stepped right into him. And
great hit. No problem with it.
Yeah. No. Clean hit for sure. But like, what happened to the days where you just pull a defenseman down to the hash marks? You want to come and get me down here. But they either blow the zone or they're sitting on the blue line.
Didn't have to travel far to get them.
Well, and that's the thing I would say that like bugs me a little bit with the whole push the pace thing is that winger is supposed to cut across and take someone with him. And often you just see guys going straight, blowing the zone. D-man's not going with them. Or the D are so far backed off, you're skating into traffic. There's no actual decision making being made. They're just like coach says go, and they go. So
the one thing that the guys did mention on the panel was the fact that Pelche too is standing a foot from his bench and you could see not one
word.
guy on the bench said, heads up.
That's bad.
You got 18 guys, you got 4 coaches, you got trainers. Can somebody tell them Jacob Trouba is coming? That's where a lot of responsibility has to come to that bench going, boys, let's talk here.
Yeah.
Make your eyes your ears and your ears your eyes.
Tough spot for that kid, too, because he had been hurt, excited to come back, play at Madison Square Garden. He talked about how thrilled he was, and, obviously didn't get to play much of the game. So, Too bad on that one.
Seattle in the island tonight. Seattle's one loss away from being complete sellers for you right now.
Yeah, I mean, they should just be complete sellers for me. It's not just how many points back they are right now. They're 6 points out of a wild card spot, but they're behind the Wild, the Flames, the Preds. They got to go over so many teams. They're not that good. They can't score goals. They're 2-7, won their last 10, lost 3 straight.
Can I give you a dream target for the Toronto Maple Leafs from that team?
Can I guess it first?
Yes.
Is it Alexiak?
I would enjoy that.
No.
Yanni Gourde.
Larson? Oh, yes.
That's not happening.
No?
They love Gourde, eh?
Well, but you're going to give up. What's Gourde have? Is he?
I think he's
deal done?
He's getting there. I think he's getting there.
Does he have another year left?
I'm just looking at it right this second. He makes 4.5 or
What?
He makes 5-1.
5-1 this year and next. It's a big ticket.
Yeah,
you have to get them.
You can, but it's going to cost you a first and.
But yes, I love the competitiveness of that guy. I've always loved him as a player.
Perfect in the Leafs bottom 6. Play him up the lineup a little bit, kill penalties, be in people's face.
There's an arms race for centermen.
So that drives up the value of a guy like Gourde, do you think?
Well, Monahan, everybody, if Monahan with a bad hip can get traded for a first rounder, everybody's licking their chops.
I gotta say, I'm not as excited about that pickup for the Jets.
So
I'm just looking at Yanni Gourde's cap-friendly page, and Bukala's Pro Hockey Group scouting report is on there. And the professional report, overall rating of an 83 when weighted against counterparts of the following talent level for third line.
I saw him actually punch a guy's nose off his face. Like it actually ripped the nose. He's an animal. He can score.
The Kraken, they're not getting rid of Gourde, but they'll get rid of...
This is not a hockey play.
Wenberg.
So you don't...
That's who...
Okay.
Great.
I'm not... I don't mean to be condescending,
Jenner,
but...
Renberg, Scott Laughlin. Those are the centermen that are all out there.
Jenner, talk to me.
Right?
Yeah, who
Bruce
wouldn't...
Jenner, but those are first round picks
Jenner?
plus.
Bruce Jenner? You mean Boone Jenner?
Boone.
Yeah, Boone.
What did I say?
Bruce Jenner.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
Let's just not
I'm
even...
old.
No, it's fine. Yes, I know.
Going back to the 76 Olympics.
Yeah.
The
Wheaties.
That if Sean Monahan is worth a first, like Boone Jenner worth a lot to Columbus, but if you're the Blue Jackets, like what something's got to give here, doesn't it? Whether it's players or Kekalainen or
Kekalainen will be in the summer.
They just don't want to pay
when
another
the season's
guy.
over. I don't know, but what's the point now?
Just let him make more decisions based on how those decisions have panned out.
Yeah, I
selling's
wouldn't
easier
believe
than buying.
that. He'd completely have a green light to do whatever he wants at this point.
Yeah, some heavy oversight in Columbus.
Yep.
Bring me Yanni Gourde.
All right, just like that, 2 hours up. Our thanks to Doug Armstrong, President and General Manager of the St. Louis Blues, and Elliotte Friedman from 32 Thoughts and Hockey Night in Canada. 11 games on tap. Busy tonight in the National Hockey League. Enjoy your game.
You going to the game tonight?
I am going to the game tonight. Nice. I'm going to do that Jumbotron troops.
Yes.
Oh, are you cool?
Yes.
Love that,
Keep an eye out.
Kippy. Yes. I work for food in the alumni room. Enjoy your games, everybody. Thanks for watching and listening to The Real Kyper and Bourne Show.